Hey everyone, Tim Uchuk here, and in this video, I just wanted to address a question around opportunities when it comes to picking your path in business strategically. So, we're talking about like revenue streams in your business or various business activities and how to think about them kind of visually. So, we're looking at a really simplified version here of your business or looking at it through the lens of a cash conversion cycle. So, customer comes in, you have to attract them. So, this is the sales marketing component. You've got the fulfillment of your product services, and hopefully they loop back and continue to purchase. And if things go well and there's no change in the environment in terms of new competition, in terms of supply chain, and all of that other stuff that can happen that could change that revenue stream, we want to think about that as well when we're taking into account opportunities and decisions when it comes to your future state business. So the top part here is just a real simple visual of your value stream and think through your revenue streams in this way. And underneath here is the cash component, or on the balance sheet you've got your assets and your liabilities. So you look at your cash, for example. Hopefully after you deliver your product services, then you are collecting the cash. Some of that goes back into feeding the machine so you can do it again. Some of it comes out as free cash, hopefully, if this machine is working well. So you're looking at your team, which is one of the assets that you use within your business in order to run this system up top here. So that's how I like to think about it in terms of the what's the highest bang for the buck, and what is least at risk in the long run given the changing conditions. So this is just kind of a really oversimplified way of looking at it. And on your P&L, like again, these are different revenue streams, and over time, you want to hopefully spend more time and effort and resources on things that have a higher bang for the buck. So that means for every dollar you put in, what is going to generate the most free cash and profitability coming out? And there's other considerations like, for example, cycle time of your cash collection. Is your cash getting tied up in inventory, for example, where it's frozen and you're unable to actually extract the free cash because it's sitting in terms of inventory, might be sitting in terms of long receivables, so getting paid. So we're kind of looking at a really simple system here. And a system is really I put energy in, I run a process, and I get an output. And then you've got the changing environmental conditions. So let's think about a system in terms of like driving, for example, driving to the grocery store. I would imagine when you drive to the grocery store, you're taking the same route all the time and driving at the same speed. So that's kind of the process that you're running, and the output there as you arrive at the grocery store. Environmental conditions, though, what if there's a snowstorm, and what if there's a ton of traffic? So those are going to impact that process that otherwise runs really smoothly. So think about that again for your business. Everything might run smoothly if there are no changes in the external environment, but we know if there are things like attendance issues, so people not showing up, or maybe there's supply chain issues, you are unable to get your products, that's going to put a bit of a wrench in your system. So this is what is useful to take into account when you're looking at and assessing strategic options within your business. Is if your business was isolated and had no externalities, everything would be much easier. But we have to contend with changing environments. And a couple different categories to run through when you're thinking about strategic opportunities and changing environments are, there's kind of three main areas. There's probably more, but some three really good ones that'll cover 90% of the situations are: look at the opportunities cash conversion cycle. So cycle time, cash flow, quality, working capital. What does that mean? Cash flow cycle time, how long does it take from the time we put money into the machine? So the working capital, that's investing in the equipment and the inventory and all that stuff. How long does it take to turn that into actual cash, and hopefully not frozen cash that is held up in your inventory, but hopefully you're able to pull out some free cash. How long does that take? So looking at the cycle time, is it really intensive when it comes to your working capital? So if it requires a lot of money just to keep the machine running and working every month, that's a risk as well, where you might have to, in order to float your growth, you might have to work with lenders. And if you work with lenders, then you might have to pay interest. And if you're paying interest, that could eat into your profitability. It could really hit your expenses. And that might be a factor to consider when it comes to what is attractive versus not attractive. So the working capital intensity. Customer engine, think about how easy is it to acquire a customer. So one way that I like to look at that piece is your offer. Let's look at thinking about your customers and your product market fit. Think about wind. Hopefully this gets a little better here. So how easy is it to get a customer? And if you look at the lens of your customer acquisition being wind, if there's high demand for your product services, it's much easier. Everything's much easier because the wind is always blowing. If the wind is blowing inconsistently, and it's maybe you get a huge order from a one-time project and then it goes away, that's exciting for a little bit, but then the bad times wipe out the good times. So think about the ability to get the customers. Let's get back here. Sorry for getting dizzy. Acquisition difficulty, lifetime value. So that's the repeat piece here. So if they're coming through one time, the cost of acquiring new customers could be eating into your profitability. So your business is obviously more valuable if you have continuity around your customer lifetime value. So are they repeating their purchases? Margin, is there healthy margins when they do come through? Sometimes you can have an opportunity that is high revenue where it looks fantastic on the top line with revenue, but when it comes to all the expenses, there's not a lot to show for it at the end of the day. So margin quality, you want to look at that. Your differentiation, do you have a moat when it comes to competitors coming in to this same revenue stream? And sometimes it's direct competition, sometimes it's indirect competition. You think about AI, for example, right now, it's introducing a new kind of paradigm in a lot of industries. For example, software and SaaS is getting disrupted by AI because the whole paradigm is shifting. So that's like an indirect competitors are coming and eating away at market share for what used to be fantastic and loyal customers. Now they're going elsewhere through what historically didn't exist as a competitor. Which is related to the environment here as well. So we've got customer concentration. Maybe the business looks fantastic, but what if 80% of your revenue is coming from one customer? Supply chain, or do you have exposure to potential supply chain risks? If there is more exposure, then the opportunity is less appealing. People risk, finding people. Maybe the business relies too much on key people in terms of tribal knowledge or other kind of skills that are putting all your eggs in that basket and putting you at risk. Changing trends risks. That's kind of the AI stuff we just talked about. Buyer behaviors, that's related as well to what we just talked about. I think about Amazon Prime, where a lot of other adjacent businesses have been impacted by the click a button and get it shipped to your door. So we're all becoming habituated and lazy when it comes to our buyer patterns as a result of being exposed to services like Amazon Prime that are super easy. So that becomes the new bar and expectation of customers. Market saturation and conditions. If there's a ton of saturation, it's going to be harder to attract. Your customer acquisition obviously will go up when the market is saturated. And so that's another thing to consider when you're looking at opportunities. So if you think about all of the opportunities in front of you in your business, think about bang for the buck. So I put in the time and the effort and the money. What do I have to show for it? What do I get out of it? And we're looking at not only the returns in terms of profitability, but we're also looking at free cash, because you could have profit, but it's tied up and not producing free cash. It could be you have to finance a lot of it, so now you're exposed to your interest and financing and all of those things to take into consideration. But I hope this is helpful. Sometimes I think in pictures, so sometimes it's useful to visualize this. Right, this is revenue. You've got your gross margin, so kind of your cost of goods here. You've got your gross margin after that, and then you've got all of your other expenses, and then after that there is what's left, and you might have the profit, but you don't have profit and cash aren't the same thing. So out of that profit, how much can you actually extract for cash, given that you have these working capital requirements to think about? So hope that's helpful, and we will see you in the next video.